I've definitely noticed that herbal medicine is becoming more popular as a lot of people are looking for more natural ways to support their health. But I'm also finding with my own clients that a lot of people are confused about how do we take herbs in the right way? Like, what form of herbs do we use? How often should we be taking herbs? And does it even matter? So, let's talk about that. I'm Michelle Brown. I'm a clinical herbalist, a functional nutrition practitioner, and I teach other holistic practitioners and aspiring herbalists how to really master herbal medicine through a functional medicine framework so you can get real results for yourself and for your clients. And today, what I want to talk about is a question I see getting asked a lot, again, by the clients that I work with, and just in kind of this general conversation we're having around using herbal medicine. And this question about how often should I take herbs? What's the right form, right? We can take herbs in different ways. And how do I know what's effective? Well, I want to share that with you today. And I actually want to share something really surprising. In fact, the most popular way that most people are taking herbal medicine to support their health may actually be one of the least effective ways to get herbal medicine into the body and get results. So, I'm going to share a clinical trial with you later that shares why this particular form may not be the best. But let's talk about different forms of taking herbs. When I say forms, I'm talking about things like teas or tinctures or capsules, or we can use herbs, of course, as foods, which can be really powerful as well. And the form of the herb can really matter. And some herbs, for instance, are really water soluble. The phytochemicals in that plant are very water soluble, so they'll make a great tea or decoction, if you will, or infusion, which are just different forms of making what we typically refer to as teas. Although technically, as you may know, the term tea only refers to water infusions of the plant Camellia sinensis, like green tea or black tea, for instance, right? But we've come to use that term tea to refer to herbal teas and not just, green tea. So I'm going to use it in the way that most people refer to teas, of course. And if an herb has a lot of water soluble constituents in it, then that can actually make a great tea and be a good delivery method for that particular plant. But a lot of the constituents in herbs are actually not water soluble, and let me give you a good example. Turmeric, which we all know contains curcumin, which is just one of the many curcuminoids in turmeric. There are polyphenols that are part of its makeup that make it such an effective plant medicine. They're actually not very water soluble. So if you're just drinking a turmeric tea, for instance, you're not actually getting as much of or a lot of the curcuminoids that are really one of the main beneficial components of turmeric. In fact, if we look at the traditional use of curcumin or turmeric, which is the whole plant of the curcumin that's often extracted from turmeric, we find that in Ayurvedic tradition, for instance, it's often recommended to take herbs like turmeric with a little bit of fat, something like ghee or coconut oil, or today we might use it in another form, a tincture, right? Because that is a more soluble way to extract the curcuminoids from turmeric. So we're actually getting more potent medicine, if you will, from turmeric and using it in that form. So I referred to tinctures. That is one of my favorite ways to use herbs because a lot of our potent herbal medicine is going to be extracted really well in alcohol, right? And so that's really what a tincture is, where we're extracting an herb in an alcohol base. And this can get detailed in terms of mixing the alcohol with water to get different levels of solubility depending on what we're trying to extract from a plant. And unless you're making your own medicine, you really don't need to worry about that as long as you're working with good quality herbal companies and formulators that know what they're doing. Getting tinctures of herbs can be a really great way to get those medicinal properties of herbs into the body. And I find they're really simple and easy to use as well, right? They're in a liquid form. You put a dropper full into some water 3 or 4 times a day, and you can take that really quickly and easily. A good example would be like digestive bitters, right? We often can find bitters in a tincture form that can added to a little bit of water, taken before a meal. And one of the benefits of a tincture as well, we actually get to taste the herbs. And you may be thinking that doesn't sound like a benefit because a lot of times, at least here in the US where I live, we don't want to taste those bitter herbs, right? We often aren't really used to taking a lot of bitter flavors or tastes from foods, and you might think they taste kind of yucky. I actually think bitter herbs taste. Uh, I enjoy taking some bitters, like digestive bitters, before a meal, and so it's a little bit of an acquired taste, but. The bitter taste also gives the body information about what we're taking in and how the body then needs to react to that herb. And it's always about bringing the body back into balance with herbs, right? It's not about trying to treat or diagnose anything, but actually about just understanding the energetic pattern of the body and then inviting that balance back in with herbs that are balanced in terms of their own energetics for what the body needs. And so that's one reason why I really love tinctures and actually formulate tinctures for my clients. Another thing I like about tinctures is that they're easy to create really custom formulas. And again, that's what I do for my clients. I can put together a formula that's really easy to do in a tincture form, right? We combine the different tinctures of different herbs into a really cohesive formula. That's where we can get really good results. And again, if we take that tincture throughout the day, that's where we're continuing to invite balance back into the body. But one really common way for us to take herbs today, at least here in the US, again, is in capsule form. A lot of uh, products on the market today, herbal products, are in capsule form, right? And again, as I've seen herbal medicine growing in popularity and people using these more, we see a lot of products like this. And I think one reason is they can be pretty easy to take, right? We can just swallow a capsule in a little bit of with a little bit of water. We don't have to taste anything yucky if we don't really like the bitter or strong taste of certain herbs. And yet, I don't know that this is really the best way to take herbs. It may actually not be the best way to get the those herbal constituents into the body and get the benefits that we're looking for. And actually, there was a study done on this not too long ago. It was a clinical study on cinnamon. The researchers gave people with type 2 diabetes a single dose of cinnamon in one of two forms. So either they got cinnamon dissolved in water, so just like a powder form, or in capsules, and these were gelatin capsules. And the common gelatin capsules that a lot of herbal supplements and other nutritional supplements come in. And this is what the research found in this clinical trial, that when cinnamon was taken as a powder in water, it significantly reduced blood sugar spikes after a meal. But when the same amount was taken in a capsule, the benefits actually disappeared, which I think is really fascinating. I've seen cinnamon in capsule form being sold on the market. And so interesting that we may not be getting some of the potent medicine from some of our herbs because they may not be getting absorbed well in a capsule form. Now, in this particular study, it's thought that some of the fibrous compounds in cinnamon weren't properly released from the capsule before digestion. Like they pass through the digestive system, and the benefit of those fiber-like compounds in cinnamon needed to happen, right? They needed to be showing up in a different part of the digestive system, and the time it took for the digestive system to digest that gelatin capsule, it meant it lost some of the benefits. So this doesn't necessarily mean that all herbal supplements that come in a capsule form are unhelpful or not beneficial. But I do think it points to the idea that there may be better ways to take these herbs when we can. I do use some capsule forms with my clients when there are other forms that are available, but choosing the right form can really change the outcome in some of these situations. And so I'll put the link to that study below so you can take a look at it yourself if you're interested in that. But one of the things I want you to take away from how to use herbs in the right form, whether again it's a tea or a tincture or a glycerite, which we didn't really talk about, but that's also a liquid form of herbs that is in a glycerin base instead of alcohol. And it can be a benefit for people who maybe can't have alcohol for different reasons, or children do well with glycerites, but also glycerin isn't quite as good at extracting some of the medicinal properties from herbs as alcohol. So sometimes there's also some pros and cons to the form that we might want to use with ourselves or with clients. And really knowing your client, if they really hate tasting bitter herbs, then even though a tincture might be better absorbed and more potent, it's not going to be a good choice for a client who just refuses to take something that they don't like the taste of. So you want to also keep in mind that with chronic issues you might be addressing with clients, whether that's fatigue or digestive issues or hormone imbalances, you really want to have consistent daily doses. Really, 4 times a day would be ideal for tinctures that are trying to move the needle with more chronic conditions, but at least 2 to 3 times a day. I often just recommend for clients they take their herbal tincture at least 3 times a day, usually around meal times can be a helpful way to remember to take that. But we can also use our herbs in more acute situations. So maybe we feel a cold coming on, and that's when we want to grab the echinacea tincture and take that several times a day for the first day, just to kind of head off that cold and keep it from kind of taking root in our system. So it also depends on the situation that we're working on and what action we're really wanting to pull out of an herb. Let me give you just another really couple of quick examples here, because for instance, I think of ginger as, of course, one of our best digestive herbs for sluggish digestion. But what about something like a cold migraine, what we might call a cold deficiency migraine, can respond to ginger really well, but we also often need bigger doses than just kind of your normal daily tea dose of ginger. You might even take up to a tablespoon of ginger powder in water to head off a migraine or a bad headache. So sometimes it depends on what we're actually, again, trying to accomplish with the herb that might inform how we want to use it. And you can find out more about this in the guide I have below that talks about how to master the 3 pillars of herbal medicine. So you're really matching the right dose of an herb to your client and getting the best results. And you're not just wasting time and money and effort with different forms of herbs that may not be the right option and the right choice for your client. So check that guide out below. You'll also get an invitation to a free masterclass where I teach you how to really master botanical medicine in working with your clients. So grab those guides and I will see you next time.